Pamela McCall on CFAX 1070.
Good morning. How is everybody? It's sure getting nice out there. 9 degrees. It's going to go up to. I can see the sun streaming through the windows here at CFAX. Corey, down in Melbourne at the Australian Open, the forecast for today, sunny and 43 degrees Celsius. Yeah.
That's hot.
Apparently they're wearing ice vests and things so they can play in it. It's, you know, at what point do you say, whoa?
I think one of our sales guys is down there.
That's right. John.
That's right.
Okay, well, we'll find out from John.
So hopefully he's all right.
Hopefully he's got his ice vest on.
Or maybe he's just hanging out in the hotel room.
Yeah, in the air-conditioned hotel room. Well, free from or unaffected by sexuality, the dictionary definition of asexual. There's actually a growing movement among the asexual community to have it recognized as a sexual orientation. Justine Munich is a member of the Sexual Visibility and Education Network and joins me now. Good morning, Justine.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for coming on the show.
No worries.
Could you expand for us on what asexuality is?
Asexuality is a kind of new thing that's popping up nowadays. There's several definitions out there on the internet prominently, but the two biggest ones are either an individual who experiences no sexual attraction towards others and or experiences no desire for partnered sex. And
is this a lot of people fall into this category, enough so that you've set up an education and visibility network?
Well, there's no question that we're a minority, but at the latest study, I believe there was one that said that about 1% of the population falls under the asexual spectrum somehow, and our online network is actually one of the biggest ones. We are in the tens of thousands worldwide, I think.
What do you mean by asexual spectrum?
Well, sexuality in general is never really a binary, and that's one thing that scientists are finding more and more so. For example, as late as a decade or so ago, I believe, the Kinsley scale came out, which implied that bisexuality, homosexuality, and heterosexuality are not necessarily points, but that somebody could be a little bit bi and a little bit heterosexual, for example. So when we talk about the asexuality spectrum, what we talk about is not necessarily just people who experience zero sexual attraction, but maybe some who experience a little bit, but not enough to necessarily call themselves fully sexual.
Right, so this is clearly different from celibacy.
Yes. Asexuality is not a definition based on actions or behavior. So celibacy tends to focus on actions and behavior, namely not having sex or choosing not to have sex, whereas asexuality focuses on just a personality trait, like sexual orientation.
And you're trying to have this recognized as a sexual orientation? Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, I mean, a lot of asexuals, myself included, before we knew asexuality existed, there's a long process there where you feel broken. Social media and society around us tells us that we should have an attraction to someone, whether it be another woman, another man. There should be something there. And a lot of us, when we just don't feel that kick in, we start to wonder if something's wrong. Is something wrong with me? Am I broken? Am I never going to be able to love? Am I never going to be loved? Am I just going to die alone? These are extreme thoughts, but they do happen when you don't know that there are people out there like you. AVEN, for example, when I found it, I like to call AVEN my haven. AVEN is asexuality.org. It's, in fact, the website that I'm a member of and that you found me through. And when asexuals find us, there's an overwhelming reaction of, oh my goodness, there are people out there like me. There are people out there that exist, that think like me, and that get me. And that's mainly why we're trying to raise visibility and awareness. If somebody doesn't have to go through life feeling broken, then really they shouldn't have to.
And what kind of discussions do you have with other people who come out? Is that what you call it? You come out as an asexual?
Yes, we do call it coming out of the closet.
And what kind of conversations when people get onto your website are you finding?
A lot of the newer members have conversations like, is it really true? Are there people out there like us? Is this actually a thing? There's just amazement, wonder. Is it okay? Right? And there's a lot of questions like, am I still asexual if I do this, or if I do that, or if I'm, for example, not a virgin? And a lot of the beginning conversations are things like, yes, you still do belong in our community. We still do welcome you. You're awesome the way you are. This is just who you are. And we focus a lot on the fact that asexuality is not a choice. You're not choosing to not feel sexual attraction towards others. And I think that's a really important point in accepting the community style and really creating an environment that's welcoming to new people.
And what is the upper limit that you will include someone in? Where do you draw the line?
Excuse me again, sorry. We draw the line at offensiveness. So in our forum, we have an area for sexuals and allies and partners. And what we do is we try to include absolutely anyone that comes in with an open mind and open heart. So really, labels are just that. They're labels. They're not meant to be prescriptive. They're meant to be descriptive. So if you choose the label of asexual to describe yourself, that's wonderful. We welcome you. Some people choose that for a lifetime. Some people choose it just for a short span of their life. And whatever you choose it for, that's wonderful. If you choose not to label yourself an asexual, you're still very welcome, as long as there's a few simple guidelines that you follow. So we don't accept people who are trolling the internet, essentially.
What do you mean by trolling the internet? Like, for what purpose?
There are certain movements out there that we call asexual elitism. So, for example, people who would believe that if you are not a virgin, you are not, in fact, an asexual, or if you ever compromise and have sex, that takes away your label. That's our main battle, is that we don't feel that you should ever be able to take away a label. We believe strongly in the ability of someone to self-identify. You are the only person that knows who you are, and you're the only person who can label that. So prescriptive things we tend to try and shy away from. Interesting that there would be a battle within that, that you're facing opposition. Do you know where that stems from? Personally, excuse me. Personally, I've not had a lot of experience with that one. It's a wave that we've been working hard again to control, but it was bigger before I knew about asexuality, so I don't have a lot of personal experience with that one.
I'm going to put this out to our listeners. Do you have an open mind about asexuality? Would you like to join our conversation? 250-386-1161, star 1070 on your cell phone. You can email us, talk@cfax1070.com. So, do asexual people have the same emotional needs as everybody else in terms of companionship, that which is not sexual, those parts of a relationship?
Very, very much so. I like to say that the only thing that defines asexuality is the lack of sexual attraction and or desire for partnered sex. So in that sense, asexuals are as varied as any other person on the planet. Some asexuals very much desire a relationship. Others may not, but again, some sexuals may not desire a relationship. Now, sexuals is a term I use to describe anyone who does not identify as asexual, and I hope that that's understood. But we exist as much on a spectrum as anyone else. So there are many out there that do desire a monogamous, quote-unquote, traditional relationship, just maybe not in a way where they desire their partner sexually. There are others who desire relationships of different models and different styles to maybe help accommodate for something where a sexual partner may feel marginalized in a relationship where they're not considered attractive, for example. Well,
that's an interesting aspect to this, because there does seem to be a big push to, Viagra's out there and the female version apparently en route. Things that the whole idea is that well, I guess that doesn't necessarily equate with desire, but that somehow there's something wrong with people who don't have sexual desires.
Yes, and that is very much a social media or a social thing that contributes to that feeling I mentioned earlier of asexuals feeling broken. Now, I do want to be clear, asexuals are perfectly capable of arousal. So that's a very physical process. And asexuals are as capable as anyone else of becoming aroused or of needing perhaps help becoming aroused as well. So you're right. There is that idea that if you love someone, you'll want to have sex with them, and that's part of what we're fighting against.
Interesting. Right. When we come back, we're going to hear more from Justine Munich. She is a member of the Asexual Visibility and Education Network. Stay with us.
Join the CFAX conversation on Facebook. Pamela McCall on CFAX 1070. If it's the Callwood Crawl or a mess on the Malahat, we've got your back with more traffic more often. If it's happening, it's here. Victoria's News Authority, CFAX 1070.
And stress were doing a number on my skin, and I had zero confidence that anything could help until I tried hydrofacials at Dermaspa. It was non-invasive and the results were immediate. The Dermaspa team is about doing their best to help you feel your best.
This month at Dermaspa, purchase a package of 3 face and neck tighten treatments and receive 3 IPL treatments and a medical grade skincare kit for free. Some restrictions apply. Visit Dermaspa's physician-led team by Dr. Harlow Hollis on Oak Bay Avenue or at dermaspa.ca.
So, retirement living. Why should I choose the Wellesley?
The Wellesley of Victoria is well established with dedicated staff. The most attractive feature is the large apartment-sized suites. Per square foot, the largest and most reasonably priced in Victoria. The suites feature full kitchens, including a standard stove and upright fridge, large walk-in closets, and room for storage.
The Wellesley. Independent living at its best. Ask Margot about a free trial stay at 383-9099. So nice to come home to the Wellesley of Victoria.
Take your Ford to some garages for an oil change and then they talk like this, see? And people who talk like this can't be trusted. They're shifty, shady, hatbox full of square apples, real sour cheese, see? But Ford trained technicians have over 1 million hours of combined training nationwide, see? So you can trust them to give you the works. An 83-point inspection including oil change, tire rotation, and more for only $69.99. It's part of what they do to keep your Ford running smoothly, see? When it comes to your Ford, beware of parts unknown. See a participating Ford store for conditions and details, see? Taxes extra. Wow.
The biggest culinary competition in the world has come to Canada.
Cook like you want this.
The nation's best home cooks battle to become the country's first ever Master Chef.
Get him on the plate. We can't.
Racing against the clock and each other for the ultimate title.
Exquisite. I have confidence in you. My answer is yes.
Master Chef Canada, Monday at 8 on CTV. Brought to you in part by Kraft Shredded 3-Cheese Pizza Blend. It's perfect for pizza.
This is it. Time is running out to get your tickets in VGH Millionaire Lottery. 4 grand prize choices, or take $2.5 million cash that could change your entire life today. And don't forget the 50-50 draw with a jackpot that continues to grow. Don't miss out on BC's biggest home lottery. Hurry before it's too late. Absolute final deadline, midnight tonight. Get your tickets at London Drugs.
Live like a millionaire.
Ticket buyers must be 19 or older. Know your limit, play within it.
Shop Safeway and take advantage of all the low, everyday prices. Plus, you'll still find great club card savings like boneless top sirloin steaks. The extreme value packs are club priced at just $3.99 a pound. Delisio pizza in the 627 to 931 gram packs for $4.99 each. Plus, buy 5 packs and earn 50 bonus Air Miles reward miles. And be sure to play Safeway Texas Hold'em. There's millions in prizes available to be won, including trips for 2 to Las Vegas. That's ingredients for life. Safeway.
Hi, we're talking about asexuality. There is a growing movement among the asexual community to have it recognized as a sexual orientation. On the line with me is Justine Munich. She is a member of AVEN. Is that how you pronounce it? Did I have that correctly?
Yes.
As you said, AVEN Haven for you. I want to ask about when it comes to the way that society looks at people and the way that we're programmed to believe certain things, even if it maybe denies true feelings. What kind of struggle do people who are asexual go through because of that?
I think that there's a really large there's a really large struggle that corresponds with the idea that love equals sex. So the idea that if you love someone, you'll want to have sex with them. Because that doesn't always happen for asexuals, as not having that sexual attraction, not having the desire for partnered sex, that causes a lot of us to necessarily question whether we're even capable of such a basic human emotion as love. And that's really, really hurtful, especially for someone like myself, where I really do desire to be in a relationship. I desire to be loved or to love and to be loved. To hit up against that wall, that roadblock, is incredibly discouraging.
Got an email here from Sherry. She asks, is asexuality covered in the BC school curriculum? If not, how would it get in there?
I can say that it wasn't covered when I was there, unfortunately. I didn't care about asexuality until actually somebody took a psychology course in university and came up and talked to me about it because they thought it related to me. as far as how we can get it going in there's a lot of resources on asexuality.org. There's a lot of movements among different local high schools to get curriculum going for that. So if there's any teacher out there that's interested in inserting that into the curriculum, even just a quick note about how not everybody does experience sexual attraction, AVEN is a great place to go to get resources to do that with.
Does it get into dangerous waters? Are you up against opposition here in terms of what you're trying to bring about? I mean, you mentioned trolls going after your website and the like.
I feel that we hit less intentional opposition and more unintentional opposition. So I think that sometimes the concept of somebody who experiences no sexual attraction can be just as alien to others as the concept of sexual attraction is to us. So I think sometimes what we hit up most is just I don't believe you kind of mindset. You must be repressing something kind of mindset. And a lot of the time, the reason we always also Visibility and Education Network, because a lot of the time what we are trying to do is just get the idea out there. It's not so much intentional, militant discrimination against us, so much as just ignorance that's happening.
If you want this defined as a sexual orientation, how do you do that when, as you mentioned, it's on a spectrum?
I think that ideally in my world, I would love to see sexual orientation seen in general as a spectrum. I mean, like I mentioned, people who are heterosexual or homosexual, straight, gay, lesbian, or even bi, don't necessarily all identify in the same way. So somebody might have a higher sexual attraction than another person. Or somebody may experience mostly sexual attraction towards men and a little bit, every once in a while, towards women. So to me, ideally, I would see sexual orientations in general seen more as simplifying labels that don't capture the entire picture, where the entire picture is seen more as a spectrum.
But by actually trying to recognize asexuality as a sexual orientation, by virtue of that, does that not sort of set up a demarcation?
It does. And there are people, when I say the asexual spectrum, that is distinctly separate from asexuality. And there are people who identify purely as asexual, such as myself. So there is a defined point that we can use to do that. I think the way I might set it up is, as a female, if I were attracted to men, I would call myself heterosexual or straight. If I were attracted to women, I would call myself homosexual or gay or lesbian. And if I were attracted to both, I might call myself bisexual. But since I'm attracted to none, I call myself asexual. And I think that's a very logical fourth category, so to speak.
Interesting. And what about coming out to family and friends? Do you liken that to gay people coming forth and dealing with their sexuality and letting people know?
I think that, I think that while there are many shared experiences there, I think that I can't necessarily say it's the same, just because, obviously I've never been gay and come out of the closet myself, so I don't know how that feels. But I do know that in many aspects it is slightly different. I think asexuals find themselves, when they come out of the closet, explaining their sexuality a lot more. Often it's a case of, I'm asexual, what does that mean? And then you end up answering a series of questions. I think with, for example, gay men and lesbian women, that happens a little bit less. Not necessarily that it doesn't happen, but I think it is a little bit of a different experience.
What about marriage and children?
That's very much up to an individual as well. I mean, there are a lot of married asexuals out there, and on AVEN you can see married couples that are very, very happy together. Some asexuals are great with having children. Others are not into the sex component of having children. But I mean, there are also others that adopt or do surrogacy or anything like that. I think that the concept of marriage is as much important to asexuals as it is to anyone else.
Interesting. And what happens, are you finding, the relationships that you come across where an asexual person is married to a sexual person?
In that case, usually it's just one other area of incompatibility. No two humans are ever perfectly compatible, and in marriage, I mean, the common idea is that it's a give and take. And when you throw in, we call them mixed orientation relationships, because you have a sexual with an asexual, so it's a mixed orientation. When you throw that into the works, it's one more area of incompatibility. And like any other area, it involves a lot of discussion, a lot of communication, and maybe even a lot of compromising to be able to make the relationship work. But hopefully, in successful relationships, there's usually other areas in the relationship that are absolutely wonderful, and by all means make up for it.
Is part of your education process informing sexuals about their partners? Because, as you say, at the outset, people could think, well, it's a lack of attraction or chemistry, or I'm doing something wrong. Do you find that sexuals are able to get their heads around this through your information that you're getting out there?
It's very difficult to get your heads around this, and I understand that it was difficult for me as well. I hope that we help, and I do think that we do in many cases, because, like you said, if you are asexual in a relationship with an asexual, it's difficult sometimes to realize that their lack of attraction isn't because of you. And it's difficult to not self-blame on that one, to start feeling unattractive. And that's one thing that we really try to work hard on with communication, to say, hey, it's not you. You're very attractive, you're a wonderful person and a wonderful human being. I simply don't experience that attraction. That doesn't mean it's not there.
Can that be a death knell for some relationships?
Sorry? Can
that be a death knell for some relationships?
It very much is, yeah. And that's, like I said, it's just one other set of incompatibilities. Everybody has incompatibilities, and sometimes it's other ones that destroy relationships. Sometimes it is this one, unfortunately.
Interesting. Tell us about World Pride. What is that, and when is that coming up?
World Pride is actually coming up in Toronto this summer. I believe it's in June 20th to 29th. And the asexual community is really working hard to form a contingent for that. We're having people, if I remember correctly, coming as far away as from Europe to join in and participate. So it should be wonderful. The World Pride event in general is an event very much made by and for the queer community as a celebration of being queer.
And so you will participate in parades, or what would asexual participation look like in this event?
We're hoping to participate in the parade and to have a booth and such things. Basically, we would be trying to be any other sexual orientation as well. So in this case, we're really trying to consider ourselves a sexual orientation. So where there may be a homosexual float, we'll hopefully have an asexual aspect to the parade as well.
Where else is this going on?
This is something that's going on everywhere in the world. In fact, on our asexuality.org website, at the bottom you'll see, of the forums, there's alternate language websites. So I believe we have one in German, we have one in Japanese, French, basically everywhere. We're really trying to create a worldwide movement where we get momentum and we start reaching people who do feel broken or unwanted or not fitting in. And we really want to reach as many people as we can and help them out.
Got an email here from Ryan, says homosexuality must be defined because it's permanent and human rights must be provided. Asexuality does not create a human rights issue and may or may not be permanent. Often it evolves with age. I have never heard of persecution based on asexuality. What do you make of that, Justine?
I think that a large reason you've never heard of persecution of asexuality is probably because few people have heard of asexuality, period. And I think that asexuality itself is as much an orientation as homosexuality in that, yes, I believe in sexual fluidity. So I believe that even homosexuals can, in fact, be sexually fluid and at one point in their life identify as not homosexual in some way, either heterosexual, bisexual, or asexual, or on a spectrum somewhere. So I believe that asexuality is as permanent as any other orientation, but that doesn't necessarily make it permanent. For example, I've been asexual my entire life, and probably will be in all statistical likelihood. As far as discrimination against asexuality goes, it's not something, again, that's very, very well known because asexuality itself isn't well known. So something like there's little microaggressions where in society love is equated to sex, and everywhere advertisements are very sexual, and for some asexuals that makes us very, very uncomfortable to be seeing overt sexuality like that. So I think it's one thing that's, it's not, if it hasn't been discussed, I believe it's not that it's not there, it's perhaps just that it's not well known.
Well, it's a fascinating subject, and you've been very bold, and it's been a pleasure interviewing you. Let people know where they can find your website.
It's asexuality.org. So ASEXUALITY.org. That'll bring you right to the homepage. There's many links, a lot of resources on there.
Thanks,
Justine. Your heart's content.
Yeah. Thanks. Take care of that cold. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Justine Munich is a member of the Asexual Visibility and Education Network.